All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you, wherever you are in this beautiful world. Welcome to our Inner Circle Live pre-New York session. I'm your host, Ryan Carthage. We'll be joined shortly by my awesome partner, Mr. Ben Allen. Hope everybody's doing well today on this beautiful Tuesday. As always, let's turn off all distractions, grab a pen and paper, let's take lots of notes. Let's make sure that we participate and engage. And as always, I want to start our day off by taking massive action. That action stands for accepting all possible losses before entering a trade, preparing you for any outcome, centering yourself, body, mind, and spirit, ensuring a balanced approach to trading, trusting in education, strategy, trade skills, and intuition. Imagine your trade successfully materializing, obeying your trading strategy, avoiding decisions based on greed or fear, and never looking back or stopping once your trade has commenced. All right. So, if everybody can hear me okay, drop me one in the chat, and we will get things underway. All right. Beautiful. Beautiful. So, let's let's get to it. I want to take a look at the indices, a few stocks, and then we'll take a look at some currencies as well. Um, yeah, we'll go from there. So let's hop over to trading economics, where we will start. All right, so U.S. business sentiment. U.S. business sentiment rebounds. The NFIB Small Business Optimism Index in the U.S. increased to 98.8 in May, the highest from 3 months. Um, highest in 3 months compared to 95.8 in April and a forecast of 95.9. Small business owners reported more positive expectations on business conditions and sales growth, but taxes ranked as the top problem. All right, we know that tax bill is still in the works. There are some concerns on the long end of that tax bill, uh, but that thing is still in the works. But taxes is a problem for small businesses. Okay. Um, we have we have European stocks edged lower. Um, stocks 50 down 0.4. Stock 600 lost 0.3 on Tuesday as investors await further developments in the ongoing trade talks between the U.S. and China. This is going to be a trend that we see from an indices perspective, which entered a second day while no major breakthroughs were reported. After the first round of discussions, U.S. officials expressed optimism about the negotiations. On the corporate front, shares of UBS were among the worst performers, falling 7% as investors grew concerned about the potential impact of new government proposals requiring the Swiss bank to hold additional 26 billion in capital, right? So I'm talking about lending and overall government oversight. There's some concerns there for the Swiss bank. Shares of other banks were also lower, namely Societe Generale, BPN Paribas, and Banco Santander. Santa, Santander. Meanwhile, SAP and ASML Holdings were in the red as well, alongside defense stocks, including Rheinmetall, Thales. In contrast, Novo Nordisk shares jumped 2% following a NFT report, Financial Times report, that activists hedge against uh, Paribas Asset Management is building a stake in the company. All right, so that's where we are from a European perspective. Then over to UK. Regular pay, excluding bonuses in the UK, rose by 5.2% year on year to £674 per week. in the 3 months to April, so in the last quarter, um, the least in 7 months, after a downwardly revised 5.5% rise in the previous period, and below forecast of 5.4. The moderation in wage growth follows significant increase in payroll taxes and a 6.7% hike in the national minimum wage. Wage growth slowed sharply for the private sector, but accelerated slightly in the public sector. Um, uh, uh, uh. Yeah, so that's where we are from a wage growth perspective in the UK. All right. Mm-mm-mm. Dollar. US dollar index rose to 99.2 on Tuesday, reversing losses from the previous session as investors focused on ongoing China US trade negotiations in London. Treasury Secretary Scott Bassett and other senior officials met with the Chinese counterparts on Monday to discuss rare earth shipments and the possible easing of export restrictions, with further talks expected on Tuesday. Post-war tariff truce between the world's two largest economies buoyed the dollar, which has faced pressure this year amid President Donald Trump's trade policies that dampen investor confidence in U.S. assets. All right. Markets are closely watching upcoming CPI and PPI reports later this week, which are expected to provide further insight into the inflation dynamics and economic fallout from the prolonged trade dispute. The greenback advanced broadly with the largest gains against the yen, the euro, and the pound. All right. Um, so that's where we are on the dollar. We'll take a look at the chart in 1 minute. Um, so far, that's where we are, right? A lot of folks are just waiting and watching, market participants, just waiting and watching the developments from the U.S. trade talks. Donald Trump did make some comments about China being difficult, uh, China being difficult to negotiate with. Um, so he never makes things easy on himself or others. So that's there. Over to the calendar, we have yesterday we had not a ton happening yesterday. Got some bank holidays in Europe. Average hourly earnings we just talked about there. Unemployment change out of the UK came in way above the expectation. I'm sorry, way below the expectation. That's in the red. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, above the expectation. 33,000 jobs, claiming unemployment. So 33,000 people claiming unemployment in the last month, opposed to the 9,500 expectation. So that's something there. Unemployment rising in the UK. President Donald Trump is scheduled to speak today at 4 o'clock. Always a move of the market. PPI data in Japan, definitely want to watch. Seeing where those inflation numbers are in Japan, as they're continuing to monitor the situation to gauge whether they are in position to continue raising rates as we get closer to the end of the year. All right. Um, Tomorrow, CPI data for the United States. All right. That's what we're talking about in the last article, looking to see where things are and where the Fed could land. Still betting on two rate cuts this year, even though I don't know that I see that. Um, we'll see. CPI give us some insight. 10:30, we got crude oil inventories. Tomorrow, we got GDP for the pound. We got PPI data for the dollar and unemployment claims for the dollar. Then on Friday we have preliminary U of M consumer sentiment. All right. So that's where we are. That's where we are from a fundamental perspective. Benny, good morning, bro.
Ryan, good morning. How are you, man?
I'm doing well, man. How about yourself?
Oh man, doing pretty good.
Awesome. Awesome. What's top of mind for you this morning, bro?
Oh man, that's it, man. You covered it mainly the U.S. China trade talks and that CPI data coming up. That's
Yeah.
I'm trying to just stay up amidst all the craziness and chaos stuff in LA and everything. I'm trying to stay focused on, what's gonna really move these markets and those are two critical pieces. So that's what I had on my mind this morning. You covered it pretty good, man. So just waiting to see what happens with China and the U.S. with these talks.
Yes, sir. Definitely keeping the main thing, and not getting distracted by all the noise, man.
Indeed.
That's a lot of it.
Yeah,
Um,
it is.
you got any updates on that tax bill, bro?
I do not. I do
Okay.
not. I don't have anything right now. Nothing, nothing really groundbreaking,
Okay.
as far as so we'll see, man. I'll keep an eye on everything and definitely get you the newest updates whenever it's something that's major. Still it's just really back and forth. People jockeying for position. Just
Yeah.
but you got some Republicans really, they're pretty much jawboning, putting up a fight. I really think that's just more so for their constituents, but I don't think it's gonna hold any weight though. Some of
I
them are
dig that.
saying so. Yep, that's it. That's it for right now.
Cool deal. Appreciate it, bro.
Yep.
Team, you guys got any questions or anything to note from a fundamental perspective? No? No? All right. Cool deal. Let's hop over to the charts. Take a look at this dollar index. I'm gonna come back to that one. Dollar index holding firm in this $99 range, 98, 99. Um, just pressing sideways. Weren't able to quite break out to the bottom just yet, but we're slowly trying to get there. I do believe that if we see um, if we see progress in those trade negotiations, I could see the dollar continue to move to the downside. I do. Um, if we see more concerns, um, we could see safe haven action, right? Or no progress. We could see some safe haven action. But right now we're just range bound here. Still watching this 97,665 level to see if we are able to break that level or if we ultimately stay above it. We do have the stochastic still higher in the zone, which means we do have some selling pressure mounting. Good morning, Deb. Down to the four. Same story here, right? We got that 618 retracement there. So ultimately, a $96 extension is where we're looking. All right. So that's the DXY. I want to take a look at, I'm going to come back to Archer. Take a look at the indices first. S&P 500 continuing to inch higher, right? So the weeklies come down to the daily, continuing to inch higher, right? We talked about this last week and price continuing to move to the upside. We got 61, 132, right? These are all-time highs. Okay, we're headed back to those levels. We do have a shallow retracement at the moment with this 118, 127 zone sitting right here in this area. So definitely something to watch as we approach that zone. Um, see what things transpire throughout the week to get us up into that zone, and then see if we get a catalyst to reverse that. Um, something like stalled China talks, um, and uh, and those tariffs staying, something like that, pushing the market back down. So we'll see. We'll watch and see what happens there. But stochastic also still in that sell zone. Okay, so we still got um, some oversold action there. Let's see as we push closer. Come down to the four, similar story, right? Here the stochastic is coming out of that sell zone, right? As we kind of get range bound a little bit right here. Okay. But 118, 127 zone just above, right at that 6132 area as well. Okay, so definitely a key area that I have my eyes on between this range here. Okay, watching that area. Oops, if I click the right button. There we go. Watching that area. All right. Um, see what happens with price as it pushes there. Okay, and see what we have fundamentally that could cause us to shift and move back down. Okay. But as of right now, right, it's held and it's moving to the upside. Okay. Um, down on the one, we also have a similar story. Right. So we got confluence on all three levels. Daily, 4 hour, 1 hour of an 80/20. Stochastic back in the buy zone on the one, right? So we could get more push to the upside. Again, watching that zone there. Okay. And then we'll see where things go. So that is the S&P 500. Questions here. Watching this 80/20 closely along with the fundamentals.
No
No,
questions.
cool deal. Of course, the NASDAQ. Same story. Let's get these out of here. Maybe. There we go. Shallow retracement. We got daily support there. We're pushing above this previous resistance level. So we'll take that out. We're headed into 118, 127 zone at 22, 269. All-time highs. All right. So again, watching the levels, stochastic also elevated. Okay. Watching the zone and watching the fundamentals. So same story here. Come down to the four. We're already in that 118, 127 zone. Excuse me. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to mark this out like that. Just all the way to that D extension on the daily. I'm going to watch that zone. So we come down to the full and we see what that looks like. Right. If we get to the D extension on the daily, we take out the D extension on the four. Okay. So watching that area to see where price goes, but we got an 80/20 there on the four. Daily resistance just above. Stochastic higher in the zone, starting to come out a little bit. But again, just like that S&P 500, we're in this consolidated range right now, just waiting to see what happens with these trade talks. Okay. So 80/20 there on the four, down on the one, you got an 80/20 as well. Right. So similar to the S&P 500, almost exactly. Daily, 4 hour, 1 hour, looking at 80/20s. We'll see as price pushes a little bit higher, right? 22, 260, 230, 22, 632, right? Is that range on the daily for that 80/20. So we'll watch and see as price gets to that daily resistance level. Okay. So 80/20 is there. Keep our eyes on also with the fundamentals. All right. Um, what am I looking for? This. What's the Russell, bro? I thought it was that.
one second, I'll tell you. Let me pull it up.
Thought it was
I say Russell is US 2000.
2000. I want that one. Just think of 1000. All right. So the Russell, right? Here we're just shy of the D extension here. Okay. Broke through all these previous levels. We'll take that out. We're above the cloud. Okay. Clear out some of this other stuff too. Is that monthly support? No. Take that out also. Crazy reaction off that monthly low. Stochastic in the buy zone here. Blah, blah, blah. So on the weekly, excuse me, on the weekly, we are pushing into 118, 127 zone between 2211, 2250. All right. Stochastic in the sell zone here. So could we push up higher and get into that zone from a weekly time frame perspective? Longer term, longer move. We'll see how it goes. But that would cause de-extensions on the lower time frames. Okay, so just keep that as a note in the back of your mind. Um, down on the daily, right? We're headed toward the de-extension. Had an 80-20 here, we weren't able to break below that 236 level. Moving long, stochastic in the sell zone. So, do we get to the de-extension before we get a reversal? Maybe. Um, de-extension, then get a reset. We'll watch that and see how it goes. Okay, but headed to the upside just like the others. Coming down to the four, we already got to this 382 here on the four. Okay, the extension at this weekly resistance level at 23,212, 220, 2321. Um, so looking for more upward movement here. We'll see what happens when we get to that weekly resistance level and potentially 80-20 on the weekly time frame. Okay, but headed north right now. Down on the one, same thing as the four, right? So from this perspective, we're headed to the upside D extension 2350 on the 1 hour. Looking for more upward movement in the short term. We'll see if we have fundamental alignment for retracements here. But looking at least to get back to these highs at 2321, and then we'll see what happens from there. Okay. So that's where we are from an indices perspective. Overall, looking long in at least the short and midterm with the potential of retracements if we have the fundamental alignment for those 80-20s. Okay. Now let's go back. I want to look at Archer. Archer is EV, electric takeoff and landing aircrafts, and defense company. I got put on Archer a couple years ago at National Business Aviation Association conference down in Nashville, Tennessee. Recently brought back on my radar by Kathy Wood, um, who said that they're relatively heavily invested in this company. But Archer, from an aviation perspective, there are in aviation overall, there are tons of uh, conversations happening in the background regarding how they get to a space of less jet fuel being used, and getting to a space of electrification and all of those things, which nobody really understands how to get there at scale. Excuse me. Archer. is one that's leading that charge. Um, and they already have some things happening in Dubai, have some things happening in Dubai for a couple of years. Um, but this is definitely a company to watch from an EV perspective, especially as we get into the space of um, air taxis. And from a defense perspective, manless drones, right? Large manless drones, electric drones. So all of that space is under Archer's umbrella, from a defense perspective in the drones to air taxis, which they already have them in Dubai, but we could see them in the coming years at scale around the world. So definitely a company to do your research on. Look at it from a technical perspective, right? If we just go back and take a look. Um, Back in 2024. We had a 618 retracement, came back down, retested that 618 level, and we ran to the D extension, right? So here we are again. We have a 50% retracement. Don't have a swing low yet here on the daily. However, right, we've got a nice large gap here. And so when we're looking at increasing of defense spending across the board from all countries, especially the United States, that pushes capital flows into technologies like Archer. When you look at some of the things that Tesla is doing, um, that also gives some credence to Archer. All right, so got stochastic in the buy zone, strong gap to the upside. We're above the cloud, right? Ultimately looking for $19.12, right? This stock is relatively undervalued at the moment. Definitely some great upside potential here. So something for us to research and keep our eyes on. We could be in for a pullback and then a continuation to the upside. Okay. Down on the four. There we go. Down on the four, we took their previous fib out. We run the fib off the low. And there we are again. Here we got a 786 retracement. And you see the nice reversal there, trying to break above the cloud. All right. So there's definitely a trend line break here on the four. Right. Boom. Now look for pullbacks and continuations to the upside matching extension 1548. All right. So options traders, here's an opportunity for you. um, but long-term perspective is bullish on Archer overall, right? And so these are some low prices that we could take advantage of this stock to add to our portfolio for short term and the long term. All right. So we come down to the one and we run this fib off the high here. Boom. Look at the reversal. Shallow retracement, less than that 382. Push down into that 118 127 zone. Take off. Cloud break, bullish ahead. Lagging span above price trying to break the cloud. 80-20, right? So now what we look for is a pullback and a continuation. In that pullback and continuation, whoops, cancel that. That pullback and continuation. All right, there's your AB boundary. Look for that retracement. If we get this retracement, what does this give us? Crown pattern, right? Things are lining up here for this move to the upside on Archer. All right, stochastic in the sell zone. We're in that up retracement zone, right? So let's look for a pullback here. And then as we get back to this low price, past resistance, I'll take this off. Past resistance coming future support, right? Looking in this range here. in that range there for buying opportunities to get long on Archer. This 80-20 to play out, the CDD moves on the 4 hour and the daily to play out over the long term. That's Archer. Good people. Questions on this one?
Nice work, bro.
Appreciate it, man. No questions. All right. Keep that one on your radar. Uh, Tesla. Talked about Tesla in this 80-20, right? Played out beautifully through both TPs. Now, 8-6 retracement stayed inside the AB boundary. This is on the 1 hour. I'll go back to the daily in a second. Um, Stayed inside that AB boundary, pushed up, pulled back. Now we're trying to continue this move to the upside. So let's watch this one if we're able to get a trend line break and a move to the upside. Got a stochastic in the sell zone right now, so we could see another pullback on this, but matching the extension is here at 364.30, right? Um, so watching this one in the short term as we had that beautiful 80-20 play out. So let's come back to the daily and look where we are, right? From a broader perspective, I don't know why I drew that fib that way. What was I looking for? I don't know. Ba, ba, ba. Fibs taken out to the upside there. Run this back down. Fibs taken out to the upside there. But what we had here, past resistance. I'll clear these out. Past resistance, coming future support, right? Past resistance becoming future support. And now we're pushing back to the upside. Okay. Excuse me. On this fib to the upside, we also 8-6 retracement, right? Matching the extension at 370, right? Right above this daily resistance level. Okay. So as long as we stay inside that AB boundary, looking for that move to the upside. Now, as we continue looking here, overall, listening to Kathy Wood in some interviews over the past couple of weeks, talking about Tesla and their long-term potential. Um, Kathy Wood and her organization have Tesla over the long term, 3 to 5 years, being at $2,500. Um, through AI, through automation, through robotics, right? Robots. Um, they have Tesla really high on their list, like one of their largest investments. So over the long term, looking at Tesla, really, really, really taking off to the upside. So if we come back, well, we're here on the 4, right? 80-20 on the 4, played out through both TPs. 8-6 retracement also stayed inside the D extension, right? I mean, stayed inside the AB boundary, right? So matching extension is also here in line with that. This is a weekly D extension as well at 364. Okay, so looking at turning over, moving back to the upside, we're able to stay in the cloud range here, not able to break out to the downside. Okay, but we come back over the long term and take a look at Tesla and look at what that really means, right? Over the long term, she's saying Tesla comes here. Kind of unfathomable at the moment, right? Um, but what does that mean? What does that mean? Where does technology go to get Tesla to $2,500? Where technology goes is um, through AI and automation. Tesla is looking at I believe it's their Model Y, having those available for driverless taxis. You buying a Model Y, you could have it take you to work and then um, launch your vehicle into the taxi network to make you money while you're at work, to just like Uber, but driverless, right? Which is a crazy world. When you look at some of the some of the older movies, you some of those older futuristic movies where they had flying cars and driverless vehicles and all of that, we're there today, right? And um, Kathy Wood and her team anticipate Tesla being that company that really brings all of that to life, along with Total Recall, um, um, along with Archer. Okay. Um, but driverless taxi network is going to be a major thing. But what that's going to call for is the roads potentially to be oversaturated or full, right? Thanks for sharing that, Reese. Um, Oversaturated or full, which then is what pushes us into the sky with Archer, right? Because too many vehicles on the road, driverless taxis doing their thing, the roads becoming congested. Where do vehicles go? To the air. Go to the air. That's where Archer comes into play with the electric vehicle takeoff and landing aircrafts that are also driverless, right? So that's how all this plays together over the long term. And so these technologies are really at really low prices compared to where they could be over the next 3 to 5 years and where technology is going and humanity is going over the long term. All right. And so as we look at all of this coming together, we come down to the weekly time frame. We have a 618 retracement, right? We got a trend line break. Boom. We got a pullback here. Boom. Match and extension on Tesla as of now, 727 is on the daily time frame. Could we see a deeper pullback? Absolutely, right? We got a stochastic in the sell zone right now. We could see this, right? Looking at this weekly time frame, we could see price give us this push up here, right? On the lower time frames, maybe coming back to that. I don't know, I put a weekly extension there. Um, Coming back to this 4 hour extension, daily extension, right? And then coming back down and maybe giving us a double bottom at 213, right? This is a monthly support level, right? We got a daily support level here, right? If this turns into a swing low, but right, even if we come back down to this 213 level, that's a better buying price, right? For that 727 level. All right. So over the long term, as we're building out these portfolios and looking at longer term asset management, these are some things to really take a look at is and what I'm studying and what Benny and I are taking a look at is um, some of the best in the industry, right? From an investment perspective and from a private equity perspective, what are they doing and what are they looking for? Right? What are they doing? What are they investing in? And what are they looking for in those investments that keep them ahead of the game? Right? And for ARK, what they look for is um, disruption. They look for disruption in the market. All right. What things are going to disrupt the market? There's some other things that they're looking into. I'll break down in the future, but they're looking for disruption. Right. Tesla is a disruptor. Right. They came in and they disrupted the automotive industry. Okay. They're doing tons of things in AI. Feel how you want to feel about Elon Musk, But from a technology and a business perspective, they're disrupting multiple markets, and the things that he's doing is futuristic, right? From a business and technology perspective, along with their AI investments, right? And all of this that the Tesla is doing includes AI. So that includes then you come back to NVIDIA and them using NVIDIA chips, large investment in NVIDIA chips to power a lot of what they're doing in this space, right? Electric vehicle and takeoff and landing aircrafts uses AI, right? To scan space, to understand what's in the air, where things are. Um, and so from that perspective, they look for disruptors in the market, right? Then looking at individuals like Robert Smith, who is private equity, and his company is Vista. Vista, they are software investors, right? They look for software that's going to change the world. And that's what they invest in, right? They buy software companies, they invest in software companies that will change the world. And AI is obviously changing the world. And what he's looking for are software companies, AI software companies. In his breakdown, he talks about um, he talks about the different stages in technological advancements, and he talks about the hardware being kind of the first stage, right? For your early adopters, the hardware, the things being developed to power the things, um, being the initial rise. But he said the long money comes in software, right? Because the software will continue to advance, continue to evolve. That hardware, once you build it, it's already in a company, and there won't necessarily AI will be a little bit different than this, but overall, you have the software that'll continue to be sold, continue to be upgraded, continue to be evolved and changed. And so the long-term value is greater in the software space than in the hardware space. So you get your initial money in the hardware space, you get your long money in the software space. That's his perspective. That's what they're looking for. And they're looking for software companies that are integrating groundbreaking, world-changing industries that'll change the world, right? And so Tesla, they're using software, AI software in their vehicles to change the world, right? Archer is using AI software in their vehicles to change travel, right? So those are some key pieces that we can start to look for as we're looking at different stocks, ETFs, um, to build out our portfolios that can help to put us in a space that we're in line with where the long money is going so that we can build our assets, build our value, and build our overall family wealth, just as the wealthy are currently doing, right? And that's just a small piece of this space that we're in from an investment perspective. It's just one side of it. There's tons of other stuff that we'll continue to talk about when it comes to Africa and things that they're doing as well. But that's my spiel on Tesla Archer technology. Are there any questions? I know I just said a lot.
You sound passionate about it.
I actually am. Um, I am. I've been really in this space of working to continue to evolve, not just myself, but the question I've been asking is, how can we take us to another level, right? And how can we look at this from a broader perspective to be even greater than we are, right? And that large question has led me down some very interesting paths. Um, but as we started out this year in the Forex trade room, we said this is the year that we turn it up a level and we really start to implement things and take things up a notch. And that's what we still intend to do, right? We're halfway through the year, and Benny's been talking about as things have been completely chaotic from a fundamental perspective and bouncing back and forth. Benny's been talking about being patient, looking for the opportunities, and making our money on the second half of the year, right? Benny came into the year talking about that, right? And now things are starting to align, and we're identifying some opportunities that can really put us in a position to not just make money on the second half of the year, but really put ourselves in a position over the long term to make money for the next 15 to 20, and not just in small increments. If we're able to manage our capital properly, manage ourselves properly, and build these positions over the long term. And so I actually am really passionate about where we are and what we're looking to do. And as Benny and I work on putting this foundation in place to build this fund, like it's a really real thing of where we're going, right? From a Forex trade room perspective, from a personal perspective, from a cumulative perspective. Um, so we're going there. And it's just about who wants to go there with us.
Yes, sir. Well said, Ryan. And kudos to you for doing all of this research, man, and
Man, no
really
doubt, bro.
really being active and going to the next level. Because that's where we need to go. Right. This is where the money is. This is where the money is, and I mean it's simple, right? You learn it from the kid, man. And the more you know, the more you grow. And
That's it.
that's just where we are with this thing. Like we've got the technicals down, we've got the fundamentals down in a lot of areas. It's like, okay, now let's go to that next level, right? How are the big boys doing it? They're pretty transparent.
Man,
You know,
man.
they're pretty transparent. A beautiful thing because we're playing at markets where they really have to be for the most part. So everything that they're doing, like you mentioned, Kathy Woods, you could just Google Kathy Woods portfolio and it'll tell you what she's in, right? And start researching those companies. Right? Just like Ryan is doing, doing that deep dive. It's fascinating. It is fascinating. You really start to see the world differently than you may have in the past.
Hmm.
So great job, man. Drop some subs in the chat for Ryan for sure.
I appreciate it, bro. It, Reese dropped this YouTube video into the chat. Go watch that YouTube video. And in the community, what I'm going to do is in the community, I'm going to share a prompt with you guys, a chat GPT prompt. And what I want you to do is I want you to go to YouTube, watch the video, watch the full interview, right? It's pretty enlightening. What I want you to then do is I'll put the instructions in the community. I'll put the instructions in the community on what I want you to do after you watch that interview. Interview is profound, but then you're gonna learn a lot with this chat prompt that I give you guys. All right. Um, it blew my mind when I did it. So I'll leave that there. Um, any charts that you guys, I know we didn't take a look at a lot, but that conversation kind of came to mind and I wanted to have it. Any charts that you guys want to take a look at before we wrap up today? We got like 8, 10 minutes.
Did you to go? And plus, I wanted to share something that I experienced yesterday
Yes, ma'am. Talk to us.
as AI. So I came across an ad on Facebook that I responded to. And the ad was about having your kids do work outside of these jobs, like, regular grocery store or things like that, right?
Hmm.
Fast food. And when I hopped on the webinar, this guy came up with a system where they could have like co-ops for kids.
Hmm.
And they pay them like $20 once they finish the projects. And these projects are kind of like things that people would do in their everyday job. So they're giving them this experience. The catch was you had to pay for the kids is like $87 or something like that, a monthly subscription for them to get each project and work on their project. So they show up to these like virtual rooms, work on their projects. I was like, wow, imagine this is how the world is going. So you have the haves and the have-nots. So if you're not into technology, you're not into doing a lot of stuff, this AI space is crazy.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
kids have the opportunity, if the parents are willing to pay that $87 for them to have a project and work, and they get like a stipend, $20, but it's you paying your kid to learn, really. Because that money, he said, is coming back. It's just going into a pot to pay for your kid, pay the kid.
Interesting.
But they're getting these experience and exposures into Fortune 500 companies doing tasks just like an adult, and then they can build a resume.
Interesting. And that's one of the biggest things, right? Is how do you go into the workspace with experience if you haven't gotten the experience, right? So that's an interesting concept.
Hmm.
Give them that experience early. If you could share the name of that company, that'd be great.
Starter schools that
Starter
um
schools.
um pretty sure.
Um, While you pull that up, gold, 50% retracement on the daily, stochastic pushing down, just been consolidating. What's happening in the market? Market participants are kind of in between right now, waiting on updates on the China-US trade talks, right? And so we're in this in-between space where people don't really know what's going to happen. So you have some folks kind of hedging their bets um, on the gold side and in your precious metals, silver, um, because they're just uncertain across the board, right? So you got gold kind of hovering in this range here as investors try to figure out what's happening. Now, if we see things go south in these trade talks, you're going to see gold take off, right? You're going to see, or if the outcome is tariffs on and tariffs still high, you're going to see gold take off, right? And run to the upside. If you see, because this being the second day of talks, if you see things kind of linger on, you'll see gold kind of continue to bounce back and forth. If you see any progress, yep, Trump speaking today too. If you see any progress in those trade talks from positively, you can see gold pull back a little bit, right? So that's kind of where we are in this. Overall, gold is still long, right? Over the long term, gold is still long, in my opinion. You still got central banks buying gold like crazy. That has not stopped for the past 4 or 5 years because of how things are evolving and changing in Ray Dalio's world from a large cycle perspective. Um, So gold is still long to the upside, okay, over the long term. But in the short term, we're consolidating, okay? We're consolidating. So we come down to the four, we zoom back, we take a look. We're gonna rerun that fib off that blue circle because we broke down. So we'll run our fib from here. Oops, not there. From here, we got a new spot. That got taken out as well, right? So you see the back and forth happening here, just moving sideways across your screen. There we are on the 4 hour, right? Fib coming down. So got a up fib on the daily, a down fib on the 4. Matching extension is here at 311. Okay. Came just shy of that on this push down. We'll see where things go. If there's positivity that comes out of these trade talks and they come to a resolution, right? Don't be surprised if gold gets down to a 311, right? I think that's just a great low price to buy. All right. So don't be surprised if gold gets down to 311 if the trade talks go positively. Now, if they go south, that A is going to get taken out. Okay. So we'll watch that there. Coming down to the 1, boom, and we'll run this fib off this low here, and that's where we are. Right, we got a 50% retracement, but we're just stuck. Right, you see the fibs getting taken out in both directions. So we're in this kind of standstill space right now from a longer time frame perspective. As we come down, right, this is where we are on the 30-minute. Got a 618 retracement, not quite a double bottom, almost, but you see us pushing back to the upside, and we got a break of the cloud there, right? And we're bullish ahead. Lagging span is broken through price and the cloud, so we got some confirmation on the 30 of a reversal, right? And we'll see how high price gets as we move through the day today, but that's a 618 retracement, and I believe you got a trend line break on this also. You initially got one there. Boom. Break and retest. Pull back, retest. Now we're off to the races to the upside there. Okay. So we can track this moving long. All right. Those sub fibs. So we got a CDD move on the 30. We come down to the 15. Excuse me. We'll look at, there's your 30-minute. Beautiful 80-20 here. Pushed up and then collapsed. Deep retracement. And now we're working to move to the upside. Okay. So gold right now in the short term is long. Okay. And looking overall in the long term is long, even if we get down to 311. Okay. So that's kind of where we are right now. So lower time frames watching this move here. See if we get back to our extension at 34.13 on the 15-minute. Um, what's your question there, Deb? Feel free to unmute yourself and you can we can talk through it.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I'm struggling with just the directional positions
Okay.
um regarding pullbacks and continuation. Um, I'm okay. I'm doing okay with understanding and placing trades at the 80-20 zone.
Hmm.
But when I watch um the these sessions, I'm trying to understand the CTD um, trades.
What time
If you
frame are you
just,
trading on?
I'm trading on the 4 hour
Okay.
time frame, and um, I'm using both the smart fibs and just normal fibs that I would run. And I don't know
Yep.
if
Yep.
were my directions. I'm using the cloud, and I'm just struggling. I'm struggling with
That's all
just
right. That's okay.
Yeah.
The first thing I'll tell you, Deb, is as part of the process. Part of any process of learning and growth is struggle. So don't feel like you're alone there. We've all been through it. We've all been there, and at times we get back there, right? So you're not alone. So don't feel bad. Don't feel down. It's part of the journey. All right. Part of learning anything, you're gonna struggle until you get your feet stabilized, you get your sea legs, and you're able to start walking through it. Okay. So first things first, don't be concerned. Okay. Don't beat yourself up because it's normal. Okay. So that's that part. Trading on the 4 hour, just like trading on any other time frame. What you're looking for is price to come into this range from the 618 retracement to the A boundary. Okay. So you're looking for a price to come anywhere in this range. And based on that retracement, 618, 786, 86 levels, right? You get your matching extensions and it's color coded just the same, right? If you get a 618 retracement, your matching extension is 1618. If you get a 786 retracement, your matching extension is 127. If you get an 86 retracement, your matching extension is the 118, right? These are energy trampolines to the downside and to the upside. So let's go back to um, this was a good one because it had multiple things. So you're trading on the 4 hour. Okay. So let's clear all this extra stuff out. And I'm doing this way instead of drawing it out so that you can see it on a live chart. Okay. But this is what it looks like, right? So now what you want is price to come back into your zone, right? Not about a specific price point, just like on the 80/20, not a specific price point, but you want price to come back into your zone. So our key zone to trade when we're looking at C to D moves is a 618 or deeper,
618, yes.
right? And we're not looking at price has to get to this specific level or this specific price point. If price comes down into this range, then we look for our confirmations, right? If you're trading if one of your confirmations is a trend line break, you drop your trend line as price is in that retracement and you wait for that trend line to be broken. Okay. And so here price came back down into the zone. It got to that 618 level. Some people, they place limit orders at this level, right? So when price gets to that 618 level, their trade is taken in and they have their stop loss outside the D extension, right? And so anywhere in that range, as price turns around, it'll take you into profit, right? So you want to just be patient and allow price to reverse in that retracement and come into the zone. And once it gets into the zone, then you look for your points of confirmation, be it trend line break, a cloud break, whatever it is, you wait for that occur. You wait for that to occur, right? And once that occurs, that's when you enter the trade. And based on the retracement that comes, here we're at a 786 retracement, right? You see that?
Yeah.
932, 937 is a 786. Price came down to that level, right? To that zone. And then it reversed. Okay. So with that, this matching extension, right? Over time, we'll see price rise to that 127 level. Okay. And so when it comes to, do you get the retracement portion of this, right? As price comes down, we want price to come into the zone. You get that part?
Yes, I do. Looking at this chart, I would have entered this trade as a 80-20. I'd look at that. That would that's
As an
would be my
80/20.
understanding. Yeah.
Where
So
where's the 80/20?
I'm looking at the blue that try. It has retraced down to the 786,
Mm-hmm.
and this is where I'm going wrong because I'm not
So,
trading it as a C to D move. I'm trading it as an 80-20 move.
but with the fib on the screen right now, where do you see an 80/20?
It's not there.
So you're not able to trade an 80/20 if it's not on the screen,
No.
right? And so let's back up. First thing Benny says this all the time is getting your direction right. Okay. So
Right.
understanding what direction the market is moving. Okay. And so if we clear our chart, okay, looking at this screen, what direction is this chart moving?
It's moving in an uptrend.
Moving in an uptrend, right? And so a way you can confirm that is running your trend lines. Okay. So we'll run our trend lines to the upside. And we see that as price continues to go, you see that acceleration happen and you see prices moving up. Okay. So if price is moving up, then if we know price is moving to the upside, we want to start deploying our fibs. And I strongly suggest what I'll say is don't use don't use these smart fibs right now, right? And smart analytics, don't use these right now because you're going to get a bunch of fibs on your chart going in both directions and that'll confuse you. Okay. So my
Okay.
suggestion is don't use the smart analytics fibs at this moment until you get comfortable identifying the direction on your own. Okay.
Okay.
I also suggest sticking with the capital fibs on the screen and not using any sub fibs because that will also confuse you when it comes to identifying the direction, right? Until you get confident understanding the direction, I strongly suggest just using the capital fibs. Okay.
Okay.
But we see that price is moving up, right? Just looking at the screen, we drew our trend lines, price is moving to the upside. Okay. So if price is moving up, then we want to deploy our fibs in what direction?
From the lowest point,
What direction?
um,
We want to start at the lowest point and they're going which way? Up or down?
of-
Going up, right? So we'll come back here and we'll start deploying our fibs to the upside, right? And we'll go step by step until we get to, you see, price came all the way back down and it took out your A. Okay. And so when price takes out your A, what do?
it's not an easy.
You change direction, right? When
Okay.
price takes out
Yes.
your A, you change direction. And so
Yes.
we'll start running our fibs to the downside because this A got taken out going down, right? So now as we
Yes.
continue moving forward, boom, price comes
So
down and then reverses. Didn't get to the D extension here, right? Price reversed. And what did it do?
it continues to go up. It
It
reverses
took your
go
A
up.
out again.
It took it.
Yep.
Yes.
Took your A out again. So you got to
Yeah.
reverse the fibs again. So we'll come down to the low here and reverse those fibs again. And what happened?
It reversed. It didn't
It
go.
reversed again. Yep.
Yes, it
And
did.
so going about it this way, walking through the fib step by step, allows you to see the change in direction, right? As you move toward where price currently is.
Yes,
Okay. And you're able to see it in both ways. And as you're doing that, you can take a look at each individual fib along the sequence and see this is your A, this is your A, there's your B. You got a pullback to a 8-6 retracement, and then price continued down to your D, right? So you can track those as you're plotting these fibs out in both directions. Every time the A gets taken out, you change the fib and you run the fib in the opposite direction. And so now as we move through, we see here AB boundary, price pushed down into the 118, 127 level and reversed, right? So we took the A out again. You see that?
yes,
And so we reverse our fib. We come down to that lowest point and we run our fib in that other direction. And so now we get to the point where we've identified from a trend line perspective that price is moving to the upside. And now, as we've plotted our fibs all the way through, we've gotten to where price currently is. And we've been able to identify from a Fibonacci perspective that prices, that the fibs are running to the upside, right? And now we have a retracement. The price did not take out your A boundary, right? And now we're looking at price continuing to the upside. So you're able to see here now you have your ABCD moves. You got your A, you got your B. You're in an up retracement zone. So price is moving down. It retraced inside that AB boundary, created a swing low, and now it's reversing. And what we look for when price reverses is the matching D extension. And so you're able to see here, you're able to see here now because you understand the direction that price is moving, that you have a deep retracement within your range. Price came into our zone, and now we look for an entry opportunity, be it a trend line break, be it the cloud break, okay? And then our matching extension based on this retracement, 786 level, is the 127 extension. That's where you'd set your take profit level. Boom. Okay.
got it.
So now as price is moving, we're looking for price to get to this level. In the event that price pulls back again and comes deeper, say it comes back down to this 8-6 retracement level, beautiful. It didn't take out the A. We would just
Just yes.
adjust our take profit level
Agree. Yes.
to the 118. And we'll look for, as long as price doesn't take out the A, it has no choice but to go my way. At some point, we'll look for price to get to this matching D extension there. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Yes.
So
So then,
go ahead.
sorry. So it has the potential to have do two retracements, and then it continues.
It always has the potential to come deeper. That potential
Okay.
is always there at any point, right? We don't control that part. The things that
Okay.
we do control is the zone that we choose to enter on, right? Our
Yes.
trading rules. And our rules in the Forex trade room say for a C to D move, we want price to be at least a 618 retracement or deeper, right? And so when price comes into that range, then we look for whatever our individual confirmations are, right? if you say I need price to break the trend line, then once price gets into that zone, you draw your trend line and you wait for a trend line break. Right? Once you get that trend line break to occur, that candle there, at the close of that candle, it broke my trend line. I'm going to enter this trade. The entry be here. Boom. Right? And you place your stop loss. I'm going to change this to green. That's your entry. You place your stop loss outside the D extension. Boom. And so now your trade setup looks like this.
Stop loss outside the A.
Yep, stop loss outside the A boundary. Boom. And then your take profit looks like this. We got a 786 retracement. So we go to the 127 level. That's what your trade setup looks like.
Okay. It's the pullback on the continuation. It's really struggling. I was like, help, please, thank you.
Yep. Yep.
Appreciate
Not
it.
a
Thank
problem.
you.
Not a problem at all. Not a problem at all. Right. And so make sure that you're mapping those fibs all the way through, that you understand the direction that price is moving. Okay. That'll help you to really start to identify that. Okay. You're absolutely welcome. Absolutely welcome. Any other questions before we wrap things up?
No, no, thank you.
You're welcome. Benny, anything before we close things up, bro?
No, sir. Great work.
Appreciate it, man. All right, good people. We will be back at it tomorrow morning, 6:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for the Spring New York session. You guys have a phenomenal day. Peace.
And you got that link, the website, starterschool.com.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay.
Boom. All right, good people.